started.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chairperson Comer, Director Clay and staff, fellow members of the Policy and Governance Committee, and our invited guests, members of the Personnel Committee. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Policy and Governance Committee. I will now take attendance. Kyle Abercrombie,
Here.
Avery Gaddis, Michael Jefferson,
Present.
Ojala Naeem, Shirley Skyers Thomas,
Present.
and Ed Shirley, Chair. Joining us this morning are members of the Personnel Committee, two of whom, Councilwoman Skyers Thomas and Councilman Jefferson, are on both committees. But we're happy to have other members of the Personnel Committee, if they are here, to join us. Is Councilman Betts on? Is he here? No? Okay. I will now ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the Policy and Governance Committee meeting of May 23rd.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Any questions or corrections? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? They've been approved. Chairman Jefferson, would you like to have the Personnel Committee minutes approved at this time? It's
Yes.
on our agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm looking at the agenda. We can ask for a motion on that.
All right, thank you, sir.
Excuse me, Chair Shirley. I believe a quorum is necessary for each committee in order to move forward on voting and those types of procedures, those types of official business matters. So if you do not have a quorum of the Personnel Committee, then you cannot vote on approval of the minutes.
I see, we have two members and, all right, well then.
Well, we have three, right?
I'm unfortunately not on the Personnel Committee, so
It's only myself and Councilwoman Sky Thomas and, okay. And the
Yeah, I
chair
think-
doesn't count. Okay.
I think you need a majority, so it would be 4.
Right,
Point of information then, so we can keep it moving. We'll just,
All right.
we'll either have to get a quorum or we can't move
can't
on it.
approve the minutes. Got it, all right. You will recall that we began the process of reviewing and adopting changes to our bylaws last month in order to have Policy Committee to adopt additions or changes to present to the full council for approval on June 25th. Foremost among those changes were those mandated by the legislation passed at the last session and presented to us by Christina Diamond. For several weeks now, we've had an opportunity to review drafts addressing those changes, along with other changes that were deemed appropriate. We deeply appreciate the work that was done by Director Clay and Ms. Diamond. I'd like to also thank Chairperson Comer for her work on this issue, also Councilman Abercrombie, and certainly Chairman Jefferson and the Personnel Committee. Our objective is to get an approval of this draft that we are comfortable presenting to the full board on the 25th. After that, we will turn our attention to the social equity plan scoring rubric and the updated criteria. So with that, I will begin by asking for a motion to approve the presented draft of the bylaws as presented by Director Clay.
I'll raise my hand, sorry.
Yes. Councilman Abercrombie.
I, I was just gonna suggest that maybe we go through the changes before we vote on it. I'm looking at a version that was sent out on Tuesday, but I think there was an updated version. So I just wanted to go through it.
Okay. I think
That-
the.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that version that was sent out on Tuesday evening by me was the latest version after we held office hours with all of the updates.
Okay.
It might be useful. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
For,
Madam
no,
Chair.
I'm just gonna still suggest maybe we go through it as a.
That's
sorry.
next. Okay. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, if Director Clay can send that maybe to the full council. I know that I'm not on either committee, but just because I'm here, I did not receive that version Tuesday evening.
I can forward that to you.
Okay. It might be useful though to look at the changes that were mandated by the new legislation, because those are the ones that we have to include in the new version. So Director Clay, can we draw attention to that? I made some notes myself, but to what those changes, what those additions were.
Yeah, I can have Christina Diamond do the legislative required changes.
Okay. Why don't we do that to make sure that we have addressed those?
Can someone put the document up on the screen?
Okay.
Yep,
And
I can share in 1 second.
I see Councilman Abercrombie has his hand.
Yes. So yeah. So the version that was sent out on Tuesday has like highlights on it, and it doesn't look like a final version. So I don't know that this, as it stands, is a final document to be voted on.
So it,
Um,
through you, Mr. Chair, the highlights, and because this document went to the both committees and folks had commented on the document, after office hours, when we went through the document again, the highlights only indicate any additional changes that were made or additions that were made. That's the only reason why it's highlighted. To draw your eye to that. It was slightly, when you were on office hours, it's slightly different.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Diamond, can you give us the ones that, excuse me, those mandated to make sure that we've got them in this document?
Yeah, sure. So, if you can scroll down a little bit, please. The first change is in regard to the membership. So, the new legislation added another two other members, one from the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus and also from the governor's office. So instead of having 17 members, the Social Equity Council will now be a 17-member council. So we added that information in there. If you scroll down a little bit, keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. So right here, section 3.6, the removal of the executive director. This was new, this was included in the new legislation that passed, so it gives the council the authority to take formal personnel action against the executive director for any reason by a majority vote. It also creates a final review board, so that information is now included in the bylaws. The other information that needed to be included based on the legislation is this piece here, 3.7, which is the role of the council. So that piece was added in there. And then if you scroll down, it's the duties of the executive director was included in the bylaws as well.
Okay, one quick question on that. In this document, are we saying that it's a role as opposed, I think in the document from the legislation, they call it a duty. I mean, there, that's not too much of a distinction, but does it make sense for us to include the same language? If not, I'm just thinking that way if we flag it. I see Councilman Abercrombie.
Yeah, no, I had sent a marked up version previously, and a lot of the things that I had suggested weren't included here. So I thought it might be helpful to kind of go through point by point on each of those and understand why those weren't included. I also just wanted to say, if we wanted to just, like, we could talk about two different versions here. We could do a version that just updates the bylaws to make us incorporate changes to the law, and then continue this conversation in future meetings on more broad updates to the bylaws. I'm comfortable with that. But in this version, I don't know that it's limited to just changes in the law, and I can't really tell. Yeah, so I see another council member has their hands up, so I'll defer.
Right. Quick question though, are you certain that the changes that you're talking about are not in another section? Because it may have been moved to another section.
I'm not certain on all of them. Some of them I am certain, but maybe we could go through and just get an understanding of why certain things weren't included.
Councilmember Jefferson.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I in part agree with Councilmember Abercrombie. I just feel rushed with this, and for example, I don't like the language "for any reason." We have to follow the law. You can't just remove someone for any reason, and I think that has to be clearly spelled out. In at least acknowledging you can't, violate the law in removing someone. So you got to put language in there that basically acknowledge certain aspects of the law. When you talk about removing, you can't remove somebody because of their sexual orientation. You can't remove somebody because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity or their nationality. You can't. So it can't be for any reason. And so there has to be language that shields us from those things. The other thing, there are just several other aspects to these bylaws that I just feel rushed. I cannot, in good conscience, I can vote on moving the bylaws based on the updated changes in the statute, because that just makes sense. It's in the statute now, but then I think we could continue having the conversation, because there is I believe a section that discussed amending the bylaws as well. So, and we can rely on that after the July 1st deadline. If I make any sense.
Christina, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to address what Councilman Jefferson said, and actually the exact language of the legislation is that the council may, by majority, take any formal personnel actions concerning the executive director for any reason. that is taken directly from the statute.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
How might we address that, Councilman Jefferson?
I
Should we
have
go-
absolutely no idea. I just think, unless the statute is assuming we're not violating the law. That's the assumption, because any reason, any is any.
True. Right.
I mean, you can't just say what we meant was, so any is any. So maybe whoever wrote it could explain it to us. Because I don't know what it means. Any
I'm
means
just
any
a,
to me.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Councilman Abercrombie.
No, like just to kind of take a step back, like I think we probably should go through these point by point, and we have about 40 minutes, I think, here to do so. So that's probably a good use of time just to see if we can get something that we can vote on. Regarding Councilman Jefferson's point, I'm fine with striking for any reason. Like I'm totally fine with that. Like it is in the law, but like we don't have to copy the law verbatim. It could just say the council may, by majority vote, take any formal personal actions concerning the executive director. So if that's a suggestion being made, I'm comfortable with that change.
Do we have the option of doing that? I don't know if we do. That's why I'm asking.
I don't know. And through you, Mr. Chair, I came to the meeting, I was forwarded the bylaws. I came to the meeting to raise a couple of issues, but I did not expect to spend 40 minutes going line by line. I just thought that was something we were supposed to do prior to hitting this meeting and then voting to move it to the full council. If folks want to do that, I have a hard stop. I have to be in court. So I really don't have that time to do that. Folks feel like they have to do it, so be it. But I can't promise you I'm going to remain on the call for 40 minutes.
Well,
Just discussing the bylaws when we had the bylaws, we went through the bylaws. I thought that was the updated version. I thought that's what we were going through, and I can understand folks having some issues around certain things. Like I raised the issue about any, and Councilmember Abercrombie made a suggestion that I can live with, but other than that, that's a lot of time point by point.
well, I think what we might do is continue looking at the mandated language. There are a few more, but not many. And then Councilman Abercrombie, specifically, rather than go through them point by point, what if you tell us the points that you're concerned about?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was recommending. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's continue then with Ms. Diamond, if you continue with the pointing out those pieces that we have to have.
As I was saying, we added the duties or the role of the council, and then I think 3.9 should be the role of the executive director. And we can change that word to duties to match the legislation. So that piece was added in there.
Okay.
And then if you could just scroll down just a little bit. Right there. So like section 12 in the legislation, it just mandated that the chairperson and the executive director shall jointly develop and the council shall review and approve like the budgetary information, allocations of monies in the social equity and innovation account, and any plans for expenditures. So that piece was added in the bylaws as well.
Okay, great.
And I believe that is it for what was mandated per the legislation.
There are a couple, I had flagged a couple more, but council must review, approve, or deny any social equity plan within 30 days.
Yes, that is, I guess, included in the duties of the council. So if people scroll up a little bit, that's probably in there.
And then, all right. Then, of course, the social equity plan, inclusion of a rubric. I believe that's in the, that's to be in the bylaws now. And we're going to address that rubric right after we finish with this.
I'm not sure that has to be included in the bylaws. I think that might just be a policy, but I'll leave that for the committee to discuss.
Okay. And then the submission of reports, quarterly reports to the governors, 6 legislative leaders, and appropriations and general law leaders.
Yes,
I
that's
know that's in
language. Yep, yeah, the monthly reports would be included under the duties of the executive director, and the quarterly reports will be included in the duties of the council.
Okay, and that's in this document though, right now?
Yes.
Okay. So I believe, oh, the only other one I have, submission of monthly report. I think we've already talked about that. Submission of monthly report to the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus beginning July 1st. So that's in there. I believe that covers the points that were brought to our attention back on May 9th in terms of what the legislation was now mandating. So with that, I see Councilman Jefferson.
No, are we gonna take a formal position on the issue I raised? Because that statute is, that's problematic. So I'd just like some discussion around what we're gonna do with that. I don't like the language in that removal.
The any reason language.
Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate language in the statute or in the bylaws.
So may we suggest different language to the legislative body so that we can get this corrected? I think your point is well taken. Any means literally any. Or does it, I guess the question, does it presume that is any reason within the law? And maybe that could be
something like notwithstanding. So it has to be some language that addresses that. It just, it's sloppy. It really is.
So I'm happy to support a motion to strike for any reason if that's helpful.
I think, can we do that? I mean, my question is, are we allowed to strike language from what was mandated?
Good question.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, lawsuit, it's not gonna fly. Someone sues us, a future executive director sues us, and they bring that statute up. It's gonna be problematic. I'm telling you right now. So somebody has to do something about it. If we strike that language for any, how does this statute? How does it read? I can't really see this on my screen.
But can we add language then? You know, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just thinking about language that was so reasons within the that are legal, and you know what I mean, language that would infer that we don't mean things outside of the law.
Sure, we can do that. I don't know if we're gonna have the time to do it now. That's gonna take a little time just to put something together to run it by. I mean, there's some, I'm sure there's some language out there that's already out there. That we can borrow or
Right.
even
We can
create.
So my other question, I'm sorry to belabor this, but the other question is, what are the steps in doing what we're saying we want to do here? Do we need to notify the legislation that we plan to change, that we're requesting that we change the language and ask them and tell them why? Any suggestions?
I'm happy to take this up. So in terms of the bylaws, right, like, I don't know that we need legislative permission to, not include all of the statute. If we want to change the statute, as Christina can tell us, we would need to put forth recommended changes before, next legislative session in January. But with regards to the bylaws, I'm comfortable, not including the entire part of the statute and only a portion of it. Like, I don't know that it has to match verbatim. Maybe I'm wrong, but that would be my suggestion.
Well, if we have the latitude to do that, then I would say we should, based on Councilman Jefferson's the point he raises. So, but my question is, can we do that? Can we just, even though it's the bylaws, can we just change the language that we've been mandated to include in the bylaws? I'm not suggesting that we can't. I'm asking basically if we're allowed.
I would say that that's a legal question and we need an attorney to answer that.
Okay.
If I could just make a comment here.
Yes.
Connecticut is an at-will state, which means that an employer has the right to terminate an employee for any reason, notwithstanding those for discrimination. So there is language specifically around at will, and we may want to look at that language and utilize that.
Okay, and for the purpose of this meeting today, if we decide to go forward with to vote on these bylaws, can we make the motion that voting on these notwithstanding or with the corrections that we're talking about now? No, sorry, Councilman.
I don't mean to ignore your question, Mr. Chair. I just, until we get an answer to that, I'm just going to be very uncomfortable voting on that. I'm just not lending my name to that kind of language. I think it can be done appropriately, and however we want to fix it, I'm down with fixing it. It doesn't matter to me. I think it's a process, and I understand what we're trying to do here, but that we have to. I mean, we're a state agency. We can do better. We can't have that kind of language in our bylaws. We simply can't. And if we can find a way to address it, I'm all for it. But right now, I'm simply not going to lend my support to it. You still might have the votes to bring it to the full council, and that's fine with me.
If we're allowed to remove that, then I would say we need to remove it for the very reason you bring out. But Councilman Abercrombie?
I don't fully agree with Councilman Jefferson. I think, like, if we're just matching the statute, then we don't run any risk. However, I'm happy to change it to make it something that we can all support. However, again, this document, I don't think is it doesn't look like a final version that we can vote on today. And I also don't feel that my recommended changes have been fully addressed in this document. So I think we may need to either hold off another week or find a way to just make this legislative changes and assure everyone on this committee that these are just strictly changes that are incorporating legislative changes, because I'm not fully convinced that it is. And then lastly, if we don't get this done by July 1, then, we'll get audit, the SEC will have an audit finding that they didn't submit a report on time. So, that's just the risk we run, just so folks are aware. Like, it's an audit finding.
And I think we want to avoid that if we can. So, but tell us, what are the changes that you would like to see, or that you submitted that you do not see?
Yeah, sure. So, we'll start with Article 1. First of all, let me just say I took a lot of time and went through and cleaned up a lot of the formatting, a lot of the a lot of grammatical changes and things, and I spent a great deal of time on that. So just throughout, the version I'm looking at, doesn't have a lot of the kind of formatting cleanup that I did. But in terms of like actual content, I suggested removing 1.2, the seal of the council. I don't think we have a seal or intend on getting one, so I don't think it's necessary to include here. Not a big deal, just a recommendation I made. 1.4, office location, I suggested making that more broad, instead of including an exact address. This is probably more information than people care about, but at DCD, we're running out of space in 450 Columbus Boulevard, and part of that is due to having the Social Equity Council, which started as one person and is now 10 people. So they're not all sitting together in the office. And then we have our DCD staff who are also kind of separated now in different parts of the agency. So I would recommend keeping that open-ended so that if more space were to become available, perhaps on a different floor or a different building altogether, we're not tied to 450 Columbus Suite 5.
Right. I thought we did address that though, by changing shall be to is currently on that particular point. That's so
it wasn't
that
highlighted, so you're right. I didn't see that it was changed to is currently.
right. So I believe that's and the other, and you're speaking of when you say clean up things that I did go through your document, and you removed certain sections which I thought were put in other sections, and so. But before, I'd like to continue with that, but I see Councilwoman Skyers Thomas has had her hand up for a while.
Thank you, sir. And this is just very brief. I don't know, we need to go back to some of the changes, but in terms 2.2, I would like there to be a little bit more clarity on if it's a renewable term. So it just says that, the time in which council members can serve. To me, it's not clear if it's renewable or if it's finite. So I would love some clarity around that. And just to weigh in on the removal of the chair section, I think we do definitely need clarity on the for any reason. I'm not comfortable with that particular for any reason. So either removal of that line or additional clarity. So I just wanted to weigh in on that, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. But I see what you mean, terms. And this was in the original document, I believe, was it? Anyway, okay. And continue, I'm sorry, Councilman Abercrombie. I want to make sure we address the issues so that we can at
No, it's
least
okay.
identify them in this meeting in the event that we need another one.
I recommended, let's see.
I know this is like pulling teeth, but
Yeah, no, I recommended eliminating 3.8 role of the SEC chair. I thought that I see that we added duties, or excuse me, role of the council, which is good. Because the statute requires us to define, the roles of the council versus roles of the executive director.
oh, okay. So you're suggesting that we remove that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to if we want this to just reflect changes to statute, then I think role of the chair is new. I can't tell from this document, but I don't think that was originally in our bylaws. If we want to go above and beyond and make changes in addition to required changes by law, then I don't know that we need to add role of the chair, but because we have a chairperson up in members and employees, but
yeah, I was thinking that personally thinking that going forward, it might be useful for anyone, new people coming in to the Social Equity Council to see the various roles laid out for at least a basic structure that could be referred to. But now I think that perhaps and I'm open for suggestions here. I'm thinking that we vote on a document that we can present to with the required changes that we can vote on so that we can implement them by July 1st. That we clearly don't want to miss that date.
yeah, in order to do that, I'd like to just see the original bylaws as they stood, prior to us marking up and having different versions, with just the changes that are because of changes in statute. If we can get a version like that, then I'd be happy to vote for that.
I'm not certain that we could get a version for that at this meeting, but and if we can't, what would be the alternative? Because it's still, I think that we need to make this July 1st date.
Yeah, I'm happy to make myself available next week for a meeting if we need it, if we need more time. I just think this document I'm looking at with it's still marked up. It's just not a final version that we can vote on.
I don't think that it's marked up. I believe that it's, there were highlights that were, because even when I printed it out, the highlights didn't come out. So, I mean, I don't, the fixed document is not marked up. So, but I mean, if you're uncomfortable, then let me see who, I guess we should take a sort of a straw poll here of the. of the
To you, Mr.
public-
Chairman,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. This is Avery Gaddis. I just wanted you to know I was on the phone. I didn't know if you
thank
guys knew I was on the phone.
did not know, but thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
So, we have levels of unreadiness from different people, different things on this committee. So, I know, Councilman Jefferson is not feeling this, and I think Councilwoman Skyers Thomas has said she's not very comfortable with the language as it exists. And I mean,
May
Yeah.
I, you,
please.
Mr. Chair? Listen, the statute supersede any bylaws we have. You can just remove it completely. And if the need arises, I mean, you can rely on the statute. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the bylaws, you know, because the statute is going to supersede the bylaws anyway. You understand? But I just, you know, as a body, I don't think we should put that kind of language in our bylaws, even if it's in the statute, until we get clarity as to how that should look, because it just doesn't bode well.
So could you vote on the document with the caveat that that would be removed? Well, I should say under the condition that wording, that phrase is removed.
Mr. Chairman, this is Avery. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Man, I defer.
Mr. Chairman, I think we need a clean document. I think trying to figure something out for today just to get something on the books, it's not the type of situation we want in this environment where we have so much scrutiny. We need to do things tight and be tight. I will not be voting for any document today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so sounds like, and then Councilwoman Skyers Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd be able to vote for this document with that caveat if we were able to remove, and I do recognize the statute supersedes, so that's not the issue. So, and with relation to the terms, we can change that moving forward. That's not a pressing deal for me right now. So I would be prepared to move on this document right now. I don't want us to hold up, and I'm wondering if a clean document would just be a removal of the highlights. Is that literally all we're talking about here? So is any other formatting or any other aspects of this document, could we move forward with that without needing to see it at this present moment? So I could be available to move forward on this.
Thank you, Councilwoman Skyers Thomas. So we have 2. And Councilman Abercrombie. Where,
No,
I mean, do you agree?
I still feel the same way. Yeah, no, I probably can't vote for this right now. I think it needs to be cleaned up. And
when you say cleaned up, tell me what you mean exactly.
Again, the highlights, the color changes, the strike throughs, like that's not a final document. So I agree with Councilman Avery. You know, we need to be tight. We need to have everything clean and final before we can send it for recommendation to the full council. That's just my perspective.
So it appears like we can't get, we do not have the necessary votes to pass this today, which is a shame because I think we run the risk of missing the deadline of July 1st, and that's That's just, that's very disappointing. So then what's our path forward? We have some language that we need to bring before, I guess, strike some language that was brought up by Councilman Jefferson. There's some other, I'd like for Councilman Abercrombie to be a bit more specific on what he would like to see. I know what you wanted to clean up, but are there things that you wanted to add that you don't see there? I see your hand up. Yes, sir. Councilman Abercrombie.
Sorry, I didn't mean to have my hand up. Sorry about that.
Okay. So let's see, it looks like we have two votes in favor, mine and Shirley Skies Thomas. We have 1, 2, 3 votes against. So then, what's our path forward then? I mean, how do we get this done by July 1st? We've got basically 2 weeks.
Through you, Chair, I may suggest, is there a possibility for special meeting either tomorrow afternoon or Monday to get a cleaned up document that this group could look at? I'm not a voting member on this committee, so I'm just making
Right.
a suggestion.
No, it's a good one, and I'll defer to Madam Chair here, who's joined us in terms of special meetings. I'm prepared to call one. If you don't have the,
through you, Mr. Chair, if you don't have the votes to pass the document as is, and if there is a desire to get it passed in accordance with the statute by July 1, then a special meeting should probably be called. I guess my only request would be that a cleaned up document, incorporate the changes that were sent by Councilman Abercrombie for consideration. And I don't know if that means 2 documents so that there can be a compare and contrast. However, the fact that there was a document that was sent the evening before the meeting where folks did not have an opportunity to fully review it, I think is why we find ourselves in this situation now. So if a document could be provided prior to, the evening before the scheduled meeting, it might provide an opportunity for more conversation and more clarity. So that would be my suggestion through you.
Thank you. So then what we need to do is to strike the language, for any reason, strike that from the document, and we'll deal with what in terms of the statute. And also would like to use the document for comparison purposes, Councilman Abercrombie, that you sent with the strikes that you struck out of 2 or 3 sections, as I recall, and compare that with the existing document to see if if that can pass muster. I see Councilman Jefferson.
If we strike that language, Mr. Chair, for any reason, I'm inclined to vote on the document moving forward today. You have the 3 votes, and then you have the special meeting on the 25th. Any changes could be made at that point and brought forth before the entire council, and then you could spend all day talking about it on the 25th. Whatever suggestions Councilman Abercrombie is making, and anyone else on the council. But if we could strike that language for any reason, I don't have a problem moving the document to the 25th, to the board, to the full board for consideration, pending whatever else we're
Right.
gonna add on that day.
Well, thank you for that. And so I'm inclined to want to vote on the document as is, with the condition that that language for any reason be struck. And then to address, that way at least we have something to present. We have a chance of making that July 1st deadline. And then Councilman Abercrombie, we can still take a look at your the language that you're not comfortable including in the document, and see what we can do with that going forward. Does that work?
Yeah, that's good by me. I'm still going to vote no just to flag my concerns here.
Understood. And we're not ignoring your concerns. We want to address them, but we also want to go forward. So, all right, I'll entertain a motion to approve this document with the condition that the language for any reason be struck from that specific section of the bylaws.
So, second, so move.
May I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, under discussion,
Yes.
first before we vote.
Yes.
I just want the record to reflect that I don't think we should move for conveniency and speed over thoroughness. So I'm going to vote no, and I don't understand why we can't wait until we have a clean document, especially with the scrutiny that we're getting. I think this is a mistake. I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Councilman Gaddis. So it's been properly moved and second that we move with this document as is, under conditions that the changes that we've outlined here, in specifically the term for any reason, be removed from the document. Do I see Councilman Jefferson?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I see Councilwoman Valerice is here. She's a member of the Personnel Committee, so can we just revisit? I think we have a quorum since late.
Right.
And
Okay.
for personnel, just for approval purposes of those, the April 24th meeting minutes.
Yes, we can. So it's been moved and seconded. I think we need to vote on this document. So I would say all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Thank you. So we have 3 in favor. We have 2 nays.
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I wasn't sure that I saw the clear vote, because I saw that you and Councilman Jefferson voted yes, and Councilman Abercrombie and Councilman Gaddis voted no. So just seeking clarity.
Understood.
I
So
think Councilwoman and Sky Thomas voted earlier, and she probably thought we were done with that matter, but we didn't put under discussion. We didn't have the discussion, but in any event, we're waiting on
I think
you.
we have, yes.
Sky Thomas.
So can she just confirm that that's the vote?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought we already took the vote as stated. So the vote is on the table right now,
Yes.
and it is in favor of accepting this document with that particular strike for any reason, and with the caveat that Councilman Abercrombie's changes be included.
Not included, considered at the next approval.
Considered?
Yes.
And would this be I'm so sorry for all these questions, but it
That's
was
all right.
it was not clear to me before. And would this document in its final form be available to us for review, or is this just going straight to the council?
Yes, we'll make it available for review.
So if it's going to be reviewed, then I will vote in favor of it. So for the review.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this issue?
Through you, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a quick question. Who specifically on the SEC staff or council, who specifically is responsible for sending out the document specifically? Because we're saying we. I want to know who, a person, so we can hold that individual accountable.
For sending out the, I think that would be Director Clay.
So Director
And
Clay
this
is
staff.
responsible for it?
For
All right, thank
sending
you.
out the changes, yep, the document as amended from this discussion.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Chairwoman
Shirley?
Styles Thomas, yes.
Thank you, sir. As a point of clarity, I am uncertain now that I have all the information correct in front of me. So prior to, I don't want to rescind my vote, but prior to concluding this conversation, please help me get clarity.
Sure.
We are voting right now on this document. This document as it stands is the original document with solely the statutory changes, and we're going to remove the language for any reason. And then we will consider other contributions, similar to what Councilor Abercrombie has said. I see nods of no, I see nods of yes.
Yeah, this is being, we're voting to move it to the full council for review at the special meeting on June 25th. That's what this vote is about. Moving this document to the full council for its approval on June 25th. That's what the vote is about. Now, by June 25th, prior to that, you should get some of the changes that have been offered by individuals like Councilman Abercrombie, and others can offer changes. And on that day, June 25th, we can vote for final approval.
I would like to rescind my vote in favor because I would like to see the full document. So if we're able to put together the full document and then vote on this on a special meeting on Monday or so, I'd be more comfortable with that because I'm not certain of what all the additional changes will be. If it's only for any reason, I can vote right now. But it's not just for any reason. It's additional removal. It's additional,
Well,
added
yeah, I mean, I
information.
think.
So I would like to see the full document. So please allow me to rescind my vote with my apologies.
Sure, no problem. Now, Chairperson Comer.
Yes, thank you. Through you, I just wanted to clarify, and it sounds like there's an understanding now. This document is not just statutory changes. There's other language that was put into this document that is not statutory. And I think Councilwoman Valerie's flagged that as well. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you. Through you.
Thank you. All right. So I'm gonna take one other stab at this, if I may. If we can submit a document that includes only the that mandated by the legislation for approval, and then thereby, assure that we can make that July 1st date. The only changes would be those changes that we've been mandated to make. And then as we go forward, look at the other changes that have been suggested, have been put forward. And, we can make those as there's no time constraint on that. That's something that the policy committee can take up and present as we go along. I think I would suggest that we present that as we go forward over the next, several weeks. But at that point, we would have a document that we can agree on. It sounds like we have a document we can agree on. And so then I would like to make that motion. Can we can we vote on a document that would include the changes that have been mandated only?
So I'm happy to jump in here if that's okay. I completely support that idea. I don't think I could vote on that without seeing the document. So a very straightforward recommendation I have is take the original bylaws, track changes in the Word document, make the changes that are corresponding with the statute change, send that to us, and then let's have a special policy and governance committee meeting between now and the next
24th.
full council meeting and just vote on that. And then, like you said, we have, the rest of time to continue to modify the bylaws to however we want. One caveat to that is that Councilman Jefferson has a very legitimate concern that we need to address. So that's going to be different than statute, and we can talk about that at the next council meeting. I'm comfortable with the suggested change to strike for any purpose, but we should all be on the record, being comfortable with that. So that's my response to your suggestion.
So you're suggesting then that so you would not be in favor of, you could not vote on it, make this a yes vote, even if it just included the mandated changes unless you saw them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I would want to look at it before I voted on something.
Whatever we do, Mr. Chair, it's going to require a special meeting, another special meeting. But I would agree that going forward, and let's be clear about what the next special meeting is going to be, so that we don't spend considerable time going through this. If it's simply going to be to discuss the legislative changes and everyone had a chance to review it with the full understanding that after we vote on that with the legislative changes and my concerns being addressed, then sometime after July 1, we can revisit the entire document with as much time that we need to make the additional amendments to the document.
Yeah, I think that's where we are now. Thanks for stating it that way. So it does not, since we're going to have another meeting, my suggestion is that we ask the staff to prepare a document that includes the mandated changes only, striking for any reason, and have that available for distribution to the policy committee for consideration, and then vote on that before the 25th.
Exactly.
And that doesn't require a motion. That's what we'll go.
And I'll make another. I would make another suggestion. It's going to be might be tight. I was going to suggest we could easily hold a policy meeting prior to the special council meeting, since everyone's going to be there. But I might run into a problem with the 25th. But the 24th, I'm
yeah, that might be. Well, we'll send a.
Should be a short meeting.
Yeah, it should be. But I'll send around something that would see if we can get a date prior to the 25th, just to be sure, and then get a clean, as used Kyle's term, a clean document, and that includes just those changes that we stated, and then work on the others as we go forward. That'll sounds like it's going to be a standard agenda item for a policy committee for the next few weeks. All right, let's move on.
Chairman Shirley, can I just
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to, let the committee know that per the legislation, the only thing the council has to do is adopt bylaws specifying which duties are retained by members of the council and which duties are delegated to the executive director. So I think in that document that you're looking at, I believe it was section 3.7 and 3.9. So technically, that is the only thing that the council has to vote on before July 1st.
Okay, and do we have to delineate what they are, or do we, or can we just say that they're gonna be separated? You're saying we have to actually say what those responsibilities are?
Yes,
In-
we would
in the
have,
bylaw.
yes, the council would have to vote on what the duties are.
What the duties are, okay. All right. And that's section 3.7 and 3.9.
I believe that's so, if my memory serves me correct.
Okay. All right. In the interest of time, and first of all, thank you for your indulgence on this issue. It's an important issue, and bylaws are only important when you run into problems. It's like a loan document. You put it in the drawer until something happens, and then you pull it out, and you're happy when you have a good one that's not in conflict or that's ambiguous. So we'll do our best to get a good document here. And let's now move on to the issue of the social equity plans. So
Councilman Shirley,
yes.
do you mind if I just respond to Christina real quick? I'm sorry. I agree with what she said about what is mandated by law. However, I would recommend that the updated version also just include like the updated membership and things that we're not being told we have to update our bylaws to include, but we probably should because the law changed. Does that make sense, Christina?
Yes, I wasn't suggesting that we shouldn't add those things. I was just simply explaining to the council what the legislation said, but I agree, we can add those pieces in.
All right, cool, thank you. Sorry about that.
Councilman Jefferson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a hard stop. Is it possible for us to vote on approving the minutes of the Personnel Committee meeting from the April
Yes.
24th?
Yes, sir.
I make need a motion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the April 24th Personnel meeting.
I'm sorry, just point of order, you lost Councilwoman Valerie's. She indicated she had to step off, so I don't know if you still have a quorum. Just, sorry, just. Oh, but Councilman Betts is here, as if by magic.
Okay, so I need a second.
Second.
And we need any unreadiness of Councilmember Betts. You on mute? Are you here? Councilmember Betts.
It looks like he's gone again, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right,
So
withdraw the
anyway, all right. Then why don't we move to the social equity plan, and Director Clay, if you will talk to us about that, what you've done.
Yeah, so I sent out the scoring rubric, and I sent a document also that included some track changes in the criteria, clarifying a couple of areas in the criteria for reviewing the social equity plans. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on the rubric or the criteria.
We have a hand, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I did provide some thoughts on the rubric, and Director Clay, I know you responded and I followed up with a question, so I'm just looking to confirm that as far as this scoring rubric, that you are giving equal value to each aspect of it. So for instance, a letter of support would carry the same weight as a community needs assessment. And I'm
Yes.
hoping that you can explain give more context to why that is.
Mhm. So each part of the plan kind of feeds off of the other. So if you don't do your needs assessments, you can't develop your goals. If you don't develop your goals, then you can't develop your metrics. If you can't develop your metrics, you can't develop your timeline. And so in putting this together, the staff, we felt that equal points or equal values for each, but you don't get all of the equal values. So it's an object, it's 0 if no information is provided. It's up to a 4 if additional information is needed, and it's up to a 10 if it is clear what the plan is stating. So I circled back with the staff and asked about the scoring pieces of it, and we wanted to recommend that each section has the same, up to the same values for scoring purposes. But each piece does rely on the other.
Thank you. And also through you, Mr. Chair, one of the other suggestions that I had offered was when we have the definition of equity goals or goals, it talked about helping homeless people, promoting literacy, supporting food banks. And I had asked that rather than use that language, that we maybe be more broad, whether it's food insecurity, offender reentry. So it limits the potential for feeling like folks are being steered to a certain way of doing things as opposed to addressing a specific area of need, I suppose.
That is incorporated in C. If you look at the document, it does eliminate homeless people promoting, and it goes with food insecurity, offender reentry, youth. That is the recommended change to what was in there based on your recommendation.
Thank you. As you know, I just received the documents this morning, so I did not see whether they were in there. Thank you.
Any other questions about the rubric? Does this require a vote for us to approve?
I believe it does.
Okay. See, there are no other questions. I will ask for a motion to approve the social equity plan rubric as presented by Director Clay.
In addition to the updates to the criteria definitions, there's the Word document.
Say again, please. In addition to the
criteria where we added,
okay. May I get a motion to accept the rubric? We can have questions afterward.
Mr. Chair, are you waiting on a motion or on a second?
I'm waiting. Yes, I'm waiting on a motion, and then we can have questions afterward. But I think we need to make a motion, have it seconded, and then ask questions.
So moved.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I second. Avery.
Thank you, Councilman Gaddis. Properly moved and seconded, and now we'll have questions about the social equity return rubric as presented. No questions? All right. All those in favor of accepting the rubric as presented and presenting it to the full council on the 25th, indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Abstentions? All right, so that passes. Thank you. So I think we're for the good of the order at this point.
Mr. Chairman, move to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilman Gaddis. All those in favor? Aye.
Second, and
Opposed?
aye.
Second, oh, all right. All right, thank you very much. We have documents to get out and some more work to do apparently. So, but let's see if we can't get this back to our staff in a timely fashion so that we can move this forward as quickly as possible.
Great.
Right.
Thank you for your leadership, Shirley and Jeannie, Ray, and Christina. I appreciate all your efforts here.
Thank you. And thank you for your input, Councilman Abercrombie. Appreciate that. All right.